If you weren't already extremely hyped for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I think it's now officially time to actually get hyped about this game because Nintendo has done something very major with the game that we're going to talk about right here at this point. And that is the fact that Nintendo of Europe put up a tweet recently saying 100 days to go for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. You guys are seeing it right here. You have that beautiful artwork. You have that absolutely gorgeous background with the sky and just the logo. Everything is looking fantastic. I cannot wait to jump back into the world of The Legend of Zelda and the Breath of the Wild universe. But let's just talk about why this is significant, because I know a lot of you guys are probably saying, wait a minute, hold up here, rushing to the comment section to say, OJ, it's just a tweet. No big deal. What's the problem with this? Or what's the reason why this is a big thing? Well, let's talk about that. So, this is significant because Nintendo of Europe, not Nintendo, the Japanese branch of Nintendo of America, but Nintendo of Europe, and I'm pretty sure Nintendo of America will put it up or whatever the case is, but this is where I first saw it, but they got the go-ahead. They got the okay to put this tweet. So, anything that goes up on Nintendo's socials, because it's a big multi-billion-dollar company with all of these companies, anything that goes up absolutely needs to be verified. And I think that if Nintendo allowed their social media manager to put up this when it comes to any piece of marketing with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, they can't just put up whatever they want whenever they want. They have to get the approval. The fact that they allowed them to do this at the 100-day mark definitely shows that there is something going down. The marketing is absolutely ramping up. There are rumors rampant that we are going to get a Nintendo Direct in February, and I think that the game is coming out in 100 days from now. So the information on this game is going to heat up, in addition to other games that Nintendo will be releasing in 2023. Now, what does this exactly mean? Well, once again, Nintendo Direct, it could be a number of things with this. We could see a Nintendo Direct with a focus on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, or we could see essentially just a big blowout on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, like a full Direct on the game where they talk about different things. Maybe they go over the special edition and pre-orders and different stuff that you can do there. Or it could be one of those hybrids as well, like we've seen with Super Smash Bros. And other titles, where Nintendo does have a Direct, but then they dedicate or focus a whole segment or timepiece plus the game. They did that with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate back in 2018, so I think that it's very much possible that they do it here with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And even back when Nintendo started doing directs in the Switch era, like the Switch style directs, they would focus on like pillar games, like 4 big games or a number of big games where they have big segments, and then kind of in between they have the rapid fire Nintendo Switch announcements. So we could also get that with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So there's a variety of different ways that Nintendo can get this done, and I am hyped to see how it all plays out. Now, we also need to talk about new features, because I think that people are actually going to be blown away by all the new stuff in this game. Now, Nintendo obviously hasn't shown much because I think they want the ideas and gameplay loop to be as much as a surprise as possible. And I cannot stress this enough that we don't need to see every single thing about every single game before it comes out, especially if it's a known quantity that we know exactly the setup of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and now the sequel. I want as many things to be new or look fresh as possible. So I don't feel that there's any issue when it comes to the marketing or what they're doing with this game, because people are excited and hyped for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It won most anticipated game of the year at the Game Awards, in addition to being the most anticipated game on Famitsu and being one of the most talked about, researched, viewed games on YouTube and just on the internet in general. People are waiting for this game. People are excited for it. And when all of the reviews and when all of the footage and when the new trailers come out, it's going to ramp up the hype and marketing to an extreme level. So I always find it kind of funny that people try to say that they're not marketing it well, as if Nintendo, out of all the companies, doesn't know how to market first party games. That's one thing Nintendo does extremely well. Now, obviously there are other things. They're not perfect when it comes down to it, but in the Switch era, there is not a single company out of the big three that's better at selling first party games than Nintendo. They've sold the most. So I think that the way that they're doing this is that they want to keep everything as much under wraps and new stuff as possible. So when people actually get to play it or see it, it's going to absolutely wow them. They've already taken this much time. They might as well get everything absolutely perfect with this game whenever they do decide to drop the bomb when it comes to new information, gameplay, story stuff, and more. So I'm really looking forward to that day, and I think that day is going to be coming very, very, very soon. Now, you don't spend 6 years making a game only for it to be a small bump over what we've got before. I have definitely seen people saying it might flop, it's only looking like a DLC pack and all this stuff. And if that was the case, then it would have just stayed a DLC pack. They would have just released it maybe 2 or 3 years ago and said, all right, here's just the extension of what they're doing. But I think that there's so many new ideas, there's so much new stuff that they're doing that they actually decided that, hey, this is going to be something bigger. And then even once they decided that, they're like, wait a minute, this isn't much, much better than what we've done. Breath of the Wild was a monumental game in the industry. Game of the year, 97 rated, one of the best rated Zelda games of all time, the best selling Zelda game of all time by a very large margin. They've got to go above and beyond what they've done before on the Nintendo Switch. So I think this time that they're spending and how long it's taken is one of the reasons. And heck, we even got some information that there could be some type of major super resolution that's being built into the game as well for image clarity. So they're doing everything to make sure that not only this game looks good, but runs good as well on the Nintendo Switch. Now, let's talk about this because I think that there's going to be a number of pillars or new things that the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom does that really changes up the gameplay based off of patents that we've seen and also based off of what I think the evolution of this game will be. As someone who's a super Breath of the Wild fan, I absolutely love that game. I've beaten it multiple times. I've played the heck out of that game. It's just one of my favorite games of all time and my favorite Zelda game by far. So I think that dungeons or new open-ended new style dungeons or a combination of the two will be in here. You see a lot of these different sky islands that have different things on them. I think that this can be a open-ended dungeon traversal where you'll have to solve puzzles, kind of go back and forth and teleport or fly from these different ones, and they can be connected in a large-scale dungeon. Or you can have areas that have these open-ended dungeon areas to where you can kind of go and come as you please within the dungeon, so it doesn't lock you in. On top of that, potentially even having old school traditional style dungeons that are hidden away or that are certain places that if you go there and if you explore it, you can get all sorts of cool weapons or gear or different things to help your adventure. I think that would be an absolutely incredible way to get it done instead of locking it into one style or another. Kind of make it a little bit of a hybrid like Breath of the Wild was with the shrines, but do it in a better job than what the Divine Beast dungeons were. And there's air quotes on those dungeons for the Divine Beast. So I think that's what they're going to do in terms of making the gameplay or pacing a bit different in this game. Another new pillar that I think that's going to be a very big core part of the gameplay is the Sheikah Slate and the new abilities. We saw some in the trailer, which has been looping at this point on the video. We saw some, but I think there's going to be so many more different things that's going to blow our minds. I knew my mind was blown when I saw like that water ability where Link can turn into that water, then drop and just teleport himself all the way up into the sky area. I think there's going to be more crazy stuff like that, the Lemillion stuff that Link can do, and other ways that he's going to be able to solve puzzles, beat enemies, gets new areas just by those traversal methods. So I think that's going to be a huge part of the gameplay on top of everything that we've already seen with the Sheikah Slate and kind of stopping the time and kind of using different weapons. This is going to be really, really, really cool. Now, next up, which is another big pillar, is various methods of traversal. Now, we did see that huge stone plane thing that Link was on, but I think there's actually going to be other stone traversal methods or more different types than just that. That was just a small taste of, I think, what we're going to be able to do. You might be able to ride like a golem or something like that. I think that there's going to be more of those, and they're going to have their own individual unique uses or areas to go, or even segments in the gameplay where you can take control and kind of go through with that. I think Nintendo just showed off a little bit, but I think there's a lot more to why Link was doing that, where he was going, and what else can happen with other stone pillars that you can control, or you might even have to fight in order to gain control, Mega Man style or something like that. Now, next up, guys, and I think that this one is very important as well, and that is storytelling. I think that this game is going to have a huge emphasis on the story and how the story is told. Now, the last game, obviously a little bit light on story elements compared to previous Zelda games, but I think back comes some of the stuff that we've seen before, but also different ways that maybe the Legend of Zelda series has never done before when it comes to storytelling. Now, we did have the flashbacks before, and some people didn't necessarily like that, but it could be a combination of that and also other things. I think that they're actually going to go to a completely different style of storytelling when it comes to how Link interacts with other people, when it comes to how cutscenes play out. I think it's going to be a bit more dramatic in addition to dynamic with what they're doing. I feel that there's a lot of different systems and mechanics that they're implementing in order to make it very different from what we've seen from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, based off of just the time that they're taking in order for this game to come out, but also some of the stuff that we've seen from patents as well. I do think that they're changing things up quite a bit. And another pillar here of the game that I am anticipating is advanced fighting moves and techniques. Aerial battles, different ways to fight. There is so much stuff that we've seen in patents and so much stuff that I know that Nintendo probably wanted to implement in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but didn't have the time, or the game broke, or there was issues or whatever. Now, I would love for them to add a lot of new advanced techniques a la The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. I think that, combined with Sheikah Slate stuff, combined with other things that are going to be in the game, could create, to me, an even better battle system than what we got with Breath of the Wild, which that battle system's insane. People do crazy stuff in there, and we could see it even like the 2 or 3.0 version of that in Tears of the Kingdom, with the Sheikah Slate and all the new weapons and potential ways that Link can traverse and kind of go through things. I think that it's going to be crazy what they're going to do there. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the pillar of a game that I think is going to be here is weapons will be fixable or not break at all. I think that there was enough in terms of talk with that fixable weapons or not breaking is something that Nintendo's going to have to add in there. And I hope this isn't like a copium or hopium type of thing. I honestly feel that Nintendo thinks that they're going to do away with that, because I don't think it ties in with the story. It's like, okay, Link with Hyrule before in Breath of the Wild, it was in a weakened state. That's the reason why it's been 100 years, you know, that people are there. The calamity, like, it makes everything weak. It makes sense. But this is not the same thing. The weapons wouldn't be in that same state this time around for that to happen. So I do think that Nintendo's going to find a way to where weapons will be fixed, or you can get like permanent upgrades to them so they won't break at all, or a blacksmith. There's going to be ways to get that done. So I think that weapon breaking, which was such a core element of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which many people feel added difficulty to the game, I think that's going to be switched up, and I feel that difficulty can be ramped up either playing the hero mode or master mode from the beginning, or the game is simply just harder than most or other Zelda games. Kind of like Breath of the Wild was definitely a bit more difficult from the beginning than other Zelda games that didn't have the hero mode options at the beginning, at least. So I think that's what they're going to do there, and I think that it's really going to create a gameplay experience that more people might like than dislike if you balance things out with the difficulty in that way, instead of adding some type of thing to say, okay, these weapons break, so it's harder for you. I completely get it, and I didn't mind weapon breaking too much in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because it was a different experience, but I think not at this point, there's no need to copy that because of their justification in the original game. So that's kind of my opinion on all of that. But I do want to talk about one more thing real quick here, and that is a report from VGC and IGN about Nintendo skipping E3 because they have no quote-unquote heavy hitters after Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I really don't pay too much mind to stuff like this because I don't think VGC know what Nintendo's lineup is, and on top of that, their definition of heavy hitter probably means Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, and probably excludes Metroid, Pikmin, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, F-Zero, Kid Icarus, Baten Kaitos, or other stuff that would be big for other people in terms of quality and good gameplay and all that. So I don't really pay too much mind to that. There was one former IGN employee that said that E3 2021 wasn't going to have anything big. that was the one where we got Metroid Dread announced. So that kind of tells you what the mainstream, what, you know, casual fans of Nintendo kind of feel about what's big or heavy hitter. It's going to be like the Mario, Zelda, Pokemon games that sell like 20 million or whatever the case is, right? Stuff like that. Whereas most of the people like, hey, big games can be, you know, any multi-million seller game that's really good or high quality. So I don't really put too much of that, but I do think that this does mean that Nintendo obviously is gearing up and getting ready for that next generation system that could be coming in early 2024, which is what I thought that we could see, that this is the last full strong year for the Nintendo Switch, and then 2024 kind of shifts over to the next generation Switch or the next gen system. So that's my thoughts on that for those of you that were asking about it, because I did get some comments on Twitter and other places about that. But there is so much more to get into and talk about when it comes to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I did a great video not too long ago that you guys can check out about some of the stuff that people were saying and why they might be wrong about that. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out. Or if you want to watch more about Fire Emblem Engage, I've got tutorial videos in addition to a video talking about why people were wrong about the game and about how good it is and what it does in there. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out, guys.